Well, good morning. So when we originally were talking about this inaugural conference, Joan and I were discussing, well, we're hoping we get 180, maybe 200 people to show up for this first conference. And here we sit with over 600 people attending this first conference, which I think is really amazing. I think it's a credit to the chamber. And really also, I think it speaks volumes about West Michigan. I think we all know that West Michigan is a special place to live, and it's also a special place to conduct business. I know for us at Meijer, we're celebrating 85 years since we started, and wouldn't have been here today and the success that we have today without the partners that we have in this business community and environment that's allowed us to grow and to prosper. What I want to do today, and the task that I have today, is to kind of kick off with a little bit of a leadership lesson. I like to tell stories, and what I'd like to do is take you on a little bit of a journey, the journey that I've been on since becoming president and CEO, and talk a little bit about leadership through the lens of Fred. Fred Meijers, who really is an iconic leader here for us at Meijer, and someone that taught me a great deal. And so I hope that you enjoy that, and you can pick up a few nuggets that you can take with you back to your business and share with your teams. But before I do that, I don't want to assume that everyone is familiar with Meijer and familiar with our history. And so I just wanted to take you through a little bit of where we began and a little bit of our history, and then get into a few lessons. So, where we began, 1934 in Greenville, Michigan. And if you look up on your far left, I suppose, you'll see Lena Meyer at the cash register, and that is our first store in Greenville, Michigan. Lena just celebrated her 100th birthday, which is amazing. Lena still attends our board meetings, if you can believe that. She's actively engaged, and we are blessed to have the family that we have. But started in 1934, right as the Depression was starting, with $328 is what Hendrik Meijers started the business with, and it's grown to where we are today. We're really excited about our business and the growth of the business. We have now 70,000 team members across 6 states. Hard to believe. I think sometimes when I talk to people in Michigan, they'll say, well, I didn't realize that Meijer was in Ohio or Kentucky. But we've been growing and expanding. We're growing in Wisconsin right now, just opened 3 stores in Northeast Ohio and Cleveland, and are excited about continuing our growth journey. If you look at the middle of the map there, I started my career with Meijer in Columbus, Ohio. So I am a Buckeye living in Michigan, which is a lot of fun. I have members of my own team sitting in the audience that like to wear their blue jacket with the maize liner and have fun with me. But it really has been great. I moved up here to West Michigan about 13 years ago. I consider West Michigan home, and really am honored to have the opportunity to speak with you. I started 30 years ago, and this is what Meijer looked like 30 years ago. It's hard to imagine that at any moment we thought those cars were cool. The light baby blue Taurus. We also thought that design of the front was cool of our store, but things change, and we've been changing and evolving. You think about Meijer today and what it looks like and the advancements that are taking place. It really is amazing. It's an exciting time to be in the retail industry. I can't think of a time. It used to be we competed as a business. It was who's our competitor, who was across the street, what are they doing, and how do we do it a little bit better? And now everything has changed. I would say whether it's in the retail industry or any of your industries, I think what's happening in technology, the preferences that our consumers have, the options that they have, the capabilities that are out there are exponentially changing our business. And so, as I think about the journey and sharing a few things with you, what I wanted to share is a bit of the journey that started in 2015 for me. So I've started with the company 30 years ago, and in 2015 had the honor of becoming the president of what I believe is an amazing company and an amazing culture. And at the time, if you go back to 2015 and you think about what was going on, retail was changing. I don't know how many remember the retail apocalypse, right? We had a record number of store closings. People were saying that brick and mortar is dead, which is interesting as you're taking over a company that has 45 million square feet of brick and mortar space in 6 states. Small stores were going to be the future, and we had the largest stores of any of our competitors out in the marketplace. And so you say to yourself, wow, you can look at that and go, what is the challenge that we're taking on? But having grown up with Meijer, having started as a team member, having worked with my team, and seeing us overcome obstacles year after year, decade after decade, I had confidence that with our culture and with our team, if properly ignited and aligned around a strategic focus, that we could take on these challenges and not just survive. Sometimes we were getting into these conversations, how do we survive everything that was going on? We needed to change the lens on how are we going to win? How are we going to win? And you think about what Fred had to deal with and his father starting the business in the middle of the Depression and all the changes that have taken place over those years. We had a great blueprint to really work from. So what I would like to do is walk you through a little bit of our journey and what was critically important for us. And I don't know about you guys, we love acronyms at Meijer. We put an acronym on everything. And one of the things that we felt was important is if we're going to ignite our teams, we needed to align around a common strategy. One of the things that's great about Meijer, and one of the reasons why I've stayed with the company for 30 years, whether I was a team member, a team leader, a VP, I always felt valued. And I think that stemmed from Fred and the family and how they chose to run the business. But every single person at Meijer mattered. Every single person was of value. And I think oftentimes companies will build strategies, and we'll have our strategic focus, and we'll build our strategy, and it goes no further than the corporate office or the VP and executive group. One of the things that we felt was absolutely critical was to make sure that our strategy, the CTC strategy, was something that every single team member in our company understood. And I think that's important. And when you think about leadership lessons, one of the things that I think as a leader, one of the greatest gifts that you can give your team is a clarity of vision and purpose. It helps them in so many ways to make those decisions without the rule book, but understanding this is what our company is about. So we came up with CTC, if we could go back to that slide. And what CTC stands for, and really the way I would say this, I consider myself a grand plagiarizer, and you're going to hear a little bit about this. It's really reaching back into our company and thinking about what made Meijer successful, what is in our DNA. And if you ever had the opportunity to interact with Fred, he was so passionate about his customers. Every day, every penny. I remember he would come into work in the mornings and he would look at every gas price from where he was at to when he got into the office, and he would tell us the prices. And if we were off by 1 penny, we were changing that price. It was this relentless focus. He naturally cared about his team. It wasn't, I'm caring about my team so that I get great results from them. It just oozed out of him. And this passion to compete was exciting. I mean, you could just feel it. It was palpable. And how do you get that throughout an organization? It's interesting and a little bit easier to do that in a smaller organization. When you take 70,000 people and trying to ignite that within 70,000 people, it takes a lot of commitment. And so we reorganized ourselves, and I'm going to take you a little bit through the CTC journey. We organized ourselves, and one of the things that is going to be the top priority at Meijer is communication. We are going to build this strategy. We're going to create clarity of vision and purpose, and we are going to communicate, and communicate over and over and over again, to the point that this is what we talk about. We organize everything under these 3 priorities: focusing on our customer, taking care of our customer, winning with our team, and having a passion to compete. And one of the things we love to do is remember Fred and keep Fred alive through his quotes and through his leadership lessons. I had the opportunity to, my office was a couple of doors down from Fred for about 6, 7 years. And every morning, he came in every day. I could hear the walker coming down the hallway, and I knew he was going to be poking his head in my office going, "What's new? What are you working on?" Now, he had done that 24 hours ago, and so I always had to have something new for Fred. But he was so curious and excited about the business, excited about what we were doing for our customers. And we always talked about that the customers don't need us, we need them. And I think, one of the things I have such great respect for is that entrepreneurial spirit and what it takes to be an entrepreneur. When you put your mortgage on the line, and Fred used to talk about signing those mortgage documents, you put everything you own on the line, you have a special appreciation for the value of your customer. And how do you translate that to people that haven't put their mortgage on the line? And so we talk about this every day. What I would tell you is that we talk sometimes about what our strategy is. I don't think there's anybody in the room or any business that would be out there and say, we don't care about our customers. But what happens is, without clarity of vision and without clarity of purpose, people start to see different priorities, and those priorities start to pop up because of our behaviors as leaders. And so you may not intend it, but all of a sudden you're saying that really what matters is something else. So I thought I'd share a quick story with you, and I have hundreds of these stories. But as I got started, and we're talking about this focus on the customer, whatever we do, everything we do is about taking care of our customer. I was out at a gas station, so imagine you're driving, it's a cold winter day, which is not hard to imagine here in West Michigan, and you drive into a Meijers gas station. You're not paying attention. You pull up to the pump. You're, oh gosh, I got to open the door, get my credit card out so I can just get this done as fast as possible. And you open the door, and I think we've all had this happen. There's an out of order sign on the pump, right? We've all had that happen. That's not an enjoyable experience. Well, we had been focused on making sure that we were managing our repair and maintenance expenses. And little did we know, but we had created a rule that, you know what, it would be much more efficient and much less costly if we didn't call to get that fixed until a second pump had broken. You could cut your costs in half, right? It's hard to imagine that something like that would happen. Good intentions, the person that made that decision was thinking about it in terms of, hey, I can cut costs here. We'll just wait. Another one of these things is going to break eventually, maybe a week from now, and we'll fix the pump then. Versus when you've created this alignment within the organization, and we talk about that, we tell stories all the time in the organization about, think about that. If you're the customer getting out of the car in the cold, is that really customer focus? So Fred really ingrained that in us. And it's something that we talk about. I think that's a little example, but I think it applies to everything that you do around who is your customer and who are you serving. The next one is team. So you think about winning with your team. We talked a little bit in the intro about culture. What I would say is that a culture for us is our secret sauce. When I came into this role, I went throughout the company, met with virtually every division, did not spend a minute talking about numbers, talking about sales growth. All we talked about was culture. And how are we going to win? And the way that we're going to win is we're going to win with our team. And I think over time what happens is, I would argue, same with customer service. No one is going to go out there and say, I really don't care about my team. But I think over time, our words can stop matching our behaviors. And if you can align and put your team at the center of your focus and saying the only way that we're going to win, what really differentiates us is not the size of our store, 300,000 items in the box, whether we're selling Cheerios or what we've got on the shelves. It's the people behind it. And how do we ignite our team and get them focused on winning? So we reoriented ourselves, and I would argue that that's an exercise that takes a lot of effort if you really go deep. We looked at everything from policies, procedures, handbook, everything, and said, how are we viewing this? We talk a lot about trust at Meijers, and I think it really is the foundation of any relationship, whether it's a business relationship or a personal relationship. And we started saying, how are we viewing our team members? And I think oftentimes we build these constructs within our organization to manage a workforce. And I think as you go from a small company to a company of 70,000 people, you can convince yourself that the only way to get things done is to have structure, right? We're going to have rules. We're going to have ways to manage this so that we get productivity and get things done. Versus saying, how do we look at our team and say that we're going to trust our team? Do I view my team through a lens of trust or a lens of mistrust? And I think what we found was that we had a lot of things in our business that were really about, I don't trust that you're going to show up on time. I don't trust that you're going to come back from your break on time. I'm going to make sure that I'm controlling all of these things. And we said, we're going to step back from that. We had a point system that that accumulated over time based on attendance, et cetera. And it really was a negative construct that really, team members were building their way up and building these points. We totally eliminated that. flipped it, created a system that really was more about rewards-based and saying, hey, we're going to trust and we're going to believe in you, and you're the reason why we're here and the way that we're going to make a difference. We revamped all of our benefits, our pay packages, everything that we could think of, and we have been working on that now for over 3.5 years. What I will tell you is that at first, it was a little scary because we were making a lot of changes and a lot of investments. And I think as leaders, you have to be willing to do that. You got to take your ship out of the harbor and you got to place that bet. And we placed a lot of big bets. And it was hard because at first team members got to believe, they've got to believe and they have to trust that what you're saying you really believe and you're going to do. We commit every year that our job as a leadership team is to make Meijer a better place to work, better than it was last year, because next year we're going to find ways to make this a better place for you to work. What we have seen, and it took a little while, what we have seen, we are now just recorded our 37th straight period of turnover reduction. 37th straight period. Thank you. And if you put that in the context of unemployment is at a 50-year low. So what's happening with my peers, and we talk about this all the time, is going in the opposite direction. Engaging in this culture that Fred gave us is allowing us to reduce that. Our productivity is at an all-time high, which is paying for the investments that we've made. And our customer satisfaction scores, we now have 9 months in a row. If you shop at Meijer, you know those little questions that they give you at the end, red, green, please press green. It's very important to me, but when you press those matter. We used to get surveys. We had mystery shoppers that would come in. This is a way of changing the lens. They would come in, and you didn't know who they were, and they were going to check and make sure you were doing things. We had 400,000 mystery shops that we would do annually on our stores. We flipped it and said, let's hear from our customer. We now get 2 million points of feedback every week from our customers telling us how we're doing. Those numbers, you can't hide those numbers. We now have 9 months. We have 6 questions every single month for the last 9 months. We've set a new record in every one of those 6 questions. And it's not because of me. I'm not in the stores. It's because of our team members. We have team members that can look to the right and the left. They've got people that have been there. Our turnover is down, and our engagement is up. And then finally, I talk about this passion to compete. And one of the things that I loved about working with Fred was this curiosity and love for the business, and not being paralyzed by what's going on. If you go back to 2015 and think about what I talked about, the environment we were in, and unfortunately Fred wasn't with us as I transitioned into that role, but he would have absolutely loved those challenges, because that would have been fun. Trusting and believing in your team, working together and figuring out ways to solve those problems together would have been a tremendous joy for him. Now, I would have been in his office probably an hour every day, 2 hours every day, talking about the things we were doing, but we would have been learning and navigating that together. And now with Hank and Doug and Mark, this passion for the business continues on. So what does it mean when you think about passion to compete? We talk to our teams about this on a regular basis, that we have to change, we have to evolve, we have to place bets. And we're going to bet on you, and we're going to bet on the changes that are coming, and we're going to work together. We found ourselves in a position with our stores not being remodeled and up to date. We said the way that we're going to win is we got to have a relevant store base. We've got to have an exciting environment to shop. I think if you live here in Grand Rapids, you'll see pretty much almost every store in Grand Rapids has been remodeled or will be remodeled within the next year or two. And we said we're going to place that bet. It was very expensive. But at the same time, we're going to place the bets on digital. All of those new things that people are looking for, whether it's ordering online, pick up in store, shop and scan, M-Perks. Hopefully some of you are getting hand-picked offers that are ads that are directly targeted towards you. Those are things that we're investing in, and they're expensive. So you have to go back and take on that challenge and say, how are we going to rework this model to make sure that we can win and compete in today's environment?
You know, as a company, whether we live or die, I think it certainly depends on how we meet the challenges of change, and whether we meet them or not is whether we enjoy them or not, because if we don't enjoy them, we'll run from them.
I think it's great to hear Fred's voice when you think about that, and we take on those challenges and enjoy meeting those challenges. The next and final slide that I have is How do you connect what you're doing in your business to a purpose, to a greater purpose? And what I would say is above, below, and throughout all of our CTC strategy is this connection to purpose. People on our teams, and a big part of engagement is saying and aligning our teams around the fact that it's not about just selling milk, bread, and eggs. That what we do, and the stronger we are as a company, allows us to do more in the community. And when you think about lives, we think about lives in the community. We talk about enriching lives in the communities that we serve. And for us, lives are our customers, our communities and organizations that we're supporting, but it's also our team members. And so with that purpose, that to me, I think is the enabler. It ignites our team. It's those, when you're having that tough day and knowing that the work you're doing is making a difference, is something that is very rewarding and a reason why that I've been with the company for over 30 years. So I hope that there are a couple lessons that came out of that story. It really has been an honor to be a part of such a great organization and such a great family, and also an honor to do business here in West Michigan and have your support. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the morning.